start. Let me know when you're on. Whenever we're live. Whenever we're live. Whenever we're live. Anytime now. Okay. I think the stream's working. I think we're up. Gotta check. Is the audio fine? Let me listen. We're freezing. We're freezing. Wait there, lads. Alright, I can hear myself. Let me know in the chat. I'm going to have to view this on YouTube. How do I get the live chat up? Right, sound. Let me know in the comments. Shut up, Eli. I'm doing this again. Right, so because I'm recording on my computer, obviously I can't bring the stream up on my PC. I cannot see myself. I'm watching myself on my phone. And my phone seems to be lagging a bit. So I need you guys to let me know if the stream's fine. What we're going to do today, I don't have that much time. But we're going to be going through the whole zombie storyline. See this on the screen right here? This is the image that we got just yesterday. Eli, you're talking still. Got to shut myself up. So this is the image that we got in JC Backfire's live stream yesterday. It wasn't a live stream, it was actually a video. And this is the entire zombie storyline right here. Literally everything from World at War, Darius, Origins, all the way up until Revelations, Mob of the Dead. This even contains, you know, little bits of information that we get in the Zombies comics. So this is absolutely freaking everything on the Zombies storyline. When I say that, we're going to go through the whole thing, but believe me, it's freaking massive. As you can see, we start off in the middle where it says in the beginning, and then you work your way around the spiral. Let me just zoom out, and you go all the way around the outside, and we have all different kind of like separate fractures for, like, let's say the Mob of the Dead one, the Origins crew, the Ultimus, and different things like that. So basically you start in the middle, work your way around the outside, and it's extremely freaking difficult to read. So what a bunch of guys have done, I will give you the names here. So these are the contributors who have written this script, but they've basically taken this, all the writing, and put it in a simpler form for us to read, which is hopefully gonna be freaking awesome. So we're gonna get into this today. We're gonna do a whole live reading of all of the zombie storyline. It's probably going to take an hour or so. I'm on a timer of an hour and a half. My friend is supposed to be picking me up at 2. Right now it's 12:30, so I'm in a rush, but hopefully we can get through this, and we're going to find out something new. I've literally read like 5 sentences from this, so for me, this is going to be surprising. You're going to see my live reactions. Let's see what the official storyline for Call of Duty Zombies is. So I'm going to take my webcam off now, and just so you guys can actually see exactly what... Oh, should I leave it on? Shall I leave the webcam on or take it off? Shall I leave it on? What do you guys say? I'll see what you guys are saying in chat. Let me know if the audio's fine. And just let me know if I should leave the webcam on or should I leave it off. I know my hair's a bit of a mess. Just come back from the gym. So I'll just leave that there. Let me know what you guys think. We're saying... What are you guys saying? Hi, hola, Raygun, sup bro, how you doing, how you all doing guys? I'm not going to read that one, okay, that is a bit weird sir. I want to know if the Origins graphics will be better in the remastered version. Yeah, of course they will. It's fine, the stream's good. Eli, mod me, I'll mod a few people, well, I'll mod one more person at the end of the stream. I think donations and everything are working, hopefully they are. So we should have notifications up on stream if we get any. Right, audio is good. Webcam on, everyone says on. Okay, sound. Right. I can't hear myself. So you guys are going to have to let me know in the chat how it is. Let's get straight into this live reading of the full zombie storyline. Here we go. So like I said, this is the one that Treyarch gave us. If I go and read it like this, it's... not only is it going to be difficult for you guys to read, but... we're going to have to keep moving the page like this, and it's freaking awkward. But as you see, you start in the middle, in the beginning, you go down to September 3rd, 5 AD, then you go around to January As you see, the dates are extremely confusing, but you go all the way around. We've got the transcript here. Let's get into it. So, before I just say that, I want to say down the bottom, we have a few little codes that you should know. So, we have the story of Primus right here. Then we've got the Ultimus characters. If you hear the word Ultimus mentioned in these paragraphs, that means the older crew, so the older version of Richthofen, Takeo, Nikolai, and Dempsey. We then have the key for Victus. Victus is the transit crew, so if you see that word, that means transit crew. And then Richthofen, obviously, is Richthofen. So we have Richthofen, Victus is the transit crew, Ultimus is the original crew, and then Primus is the Origins crew. So that's a little key for you guys, just if you want to know. And by the way, this page is taken from the Chronorium. As you see, Richthofen will say in this that he's written on the Chronorium, I know what I must do. Edward Richthofen, 4th of the 7th, 1941. So this is a page from the Chronorium. Right, getting into the transcript, starting from the beginning. I should have got a drink, man. You ready? Everyone ready? Sound. Alright, let's go. So, oh man, this is going to be so freaking interesting. I've literally read like the beginning 2 paragraphs, that's it. In the beginning, there was only the Ether and the Keepers. Among them were 2 beings who would later become known by many names. One would be known as Dr. Munty, the other known as the Shadow Man. I'm just going to turn that down. Okay, so in the beginning, there was the Ether and the Keepers. As we know, we've already know that. We've seen that in a cipher. Alongside the Keepers, there were 2 people. One was Dr. Monty, who was like the godly figure, and then the other one was the Shadow Man, who was like the devil. So just think, you know, 1,000,000 years back, there was these monsters that existed. Alongside the monsters, there was God, who was Monty, and there was also the devil, who was the Shadow Man. Our first date is September 3rd, 5 AD. Knowing the planet as a gateway to Agotha, the Apothecans send meteors of element 115 to Earth. They believe humanity will one day use element 115 to wage war amongst themselves, opening a rift that will allow the Apothecans to escape the Dark Ether. That's freaking crazy. This is almost at 5 AD. 5 AD. So that tells us how 115 first entered the Earth. It existed freaking millions of years ago, thousands of years ago in 5 AD, and it was the Apothecans, as we see in the Revelations trailer, who spit it down from freaking space or wherever they are, and just, you know, they spit 115 down out of their mouth to the Earth. The next date is January 15th, 1292. The Great War between humanity and the Apothecans begins. So we now have an official date for that image that we see of Primus. If we go over to this image here, we've had this image for a very freaking long time. We now have an official date for this. We know this is when Primus first defeated the Apothecans, and the date for this is 1292, or around the 12th or 13th century. And actually, that date freaking comes to mind with Darius and Draco. The next date is April 14th, 1294. Sir Pablo Marinus is saved from the clutches of a Mogwai by 4 unknown heroes. They would later become known as Primus. We've already seen that one in a cipher for Darius and Draco. December 31st, 1299. Together with the Keepers, Primus defeat the Apothecans, bringing the Great War to an end. So, that is the date. That's the date of this image. 1299, December 31st. On New Year's Eve, Primus defeated the Apothecans. That's the official date of that image. Okay, cool. Right, the next date, January 1st, 1300s. Before they seemingly disappeared, the history Primus... hang on. Before they seemingly disappeared from history, Primus instructed the Wolf King to begin building Der Eisendrache. We know that. September 19th, 1318. Honouring the Wolf King's dying request, his loyal servant, Arthur, scattered and buries his bones in the grounds of Der Eisendrache, accompanied by the Wolf King. If you guys don't know, this is talking about... I don't know if we can find this image. But if we put Der Eisen... I freaking spelled this wrong now. Eisen Drache... what should we say? Paintings? If we find this image, I think this one here, this is the image that this is talking about. Honouring the Wolf King's dying request, as you see in this image here, we have the Wolf King dead. His loyal servant Arthur scatters and buries his bones in the grounds of Der Eisendrache. This is Arthur, otherwise to us known as Leroy. Leroy's actual name is Arthur. He was a loyal servant of the Wolf King. I know a lot of people were saying when this came out that this wasn't Leroy, that this was, you know, a woman in a dress. You can see a ring on his finger. But this confirms that this is Leroy, otherwise known as Arthur. That's his official name. I'm going to call him Leroy, right? To us, he's known as Leroy, but his official name is Arthur. He was a servant of the Wolf King, and he buried his bones in the castle. Hence why we see the bones in Der Eisendrache. Oh, no. Right. Next one. So... this is going to take freaking ages. September 20th, 1318. Temporal rifts teleport Arthur to Resolution 1295 in 2025 Angolia. That freaking explains why Leroy or Arthur is in buried. A temporal rift teleports him there. I made a story of video on Leroy. Obviously, I said that this person in the painting was Leroy, which was right. I said that this was his servant, but we didn't exactly know how he got from Austria, Der Eisendrache, to freaking buried, which was all the way in Angolia. It turns out he actually got teleported there by a temporal rift. This is freaking mint. Man, it's so interesting to see how Treyarch have given us all of this information. I'm just going to read some of your guys' comments. Jesus. Oh my god, I don't know how to get this up. But the fact that they've given us all this information at once, it's a little bit too much. Right, let's see where we're going. June 30th, 1908. A meteor containing element 115 crashes near the stony Tunguska River. August 30th, 1925. Edward Richthofen joins the Illuminati. What the hell? We've heard the Illuminati in Zombies before, but apparently in 1925, Richthofen joins it. Okay. February 4th, 1931. Large deposits of element 115 are discovered near Breslau, Germany. Dr. Ludwig Maxis, a German scientist, is sent to investigate. So this is just before he sets up Group 935 and De Ries. May 10th, 1931. Maxis forms Group 935, an international organisation dedicated to the study of element 115. Maxis tells his scientists they represent the future of technological advancements and will be the pioneer of human discovery. The group swears to work in secrecy from their respective governments, and Maxis says we cannot afford to let the power fall into the wrong hands. So Group 935 wasn't only a German organisation; it was a global thing set up by Maxis. You know, it included Americans, Germans, people from other countries as well, France. We have no idea, but it was a massive thing. And whoever worked in Group 935 could not tell their leaders, could not tell the government that they were working for, essentially, which was the Germans. At the end of the day, Maxis was a German, and if he set up this organisation during World War II, you know, if you've got an American working for the Germans during World War II, if you tell the government, things are probably not going to go down well. So people were sworn to secrecy. November 5th, 1934. Samantha is born. her mother dies in childbirth. So that confirms how Samantha's mother died. August 11th, 1936. Maxis invites Richthofen to join Group 935. He agrees, secretly acting on behalf of the Illuminati's interest. That is so interesting. The fact that they're mentioning the Illuminati so much. Okay. April 10th, 1937. The Imperial Japanese Army discovers Element 115 meteor fragments in a swamp within Japanese territory. They build the Rising Sun facility to continue research. Division 9 is created to oversee its operations. So obviously that's the discovery and the build of Shinonuma. That's how it first came about. The Japanese discovered Element 115 within a swamp in the Japanese territory, and so to work on this and experiment on 115, they built Shinonuma, or the Rising Sun facility. June 14th, 1937, the United States government discovers deposits of Element 115 at Groom Lake. July 2nd, 1939, Maxis and Richthofen begin teleportation experiments with the matter transference prototype to mild success. As we've already know, we've heard this in the radios. The subjects are teleported, but their chemical composition is altered, leaving them catatonic and changed. August 5th, 1939. Using Element 115, Maxis and Richthofen resurrect one of the teleported corpses for the first time. So this is them first experimenting on the zombies. Initially, it obeys, but soon becomes rabid and attacks them. The test subjects is euthanized. As we know, we've heard some of these in the Doris radios. We know what was happening at the giant facility. Got such an itchy nose, man. I need a drink. My voice is going to go sore. September 3rd, 1939. Richthofen begins development on the Wunderwaffe DG2. We already know he made that wonder weapon. Right, the next date is November 23rd, 1939. Maxis turns to the Reichstag for additional funding. As we know, Group 935 were running out of money to do projects that they wanted. Germany agrees to the request, expressing interest in their weapons research, teleportation technology, and the reanimated undead subjects. So, Group 935 and the Nazis did it. Oh, no, I shouldn't say that in the video. Group 935 and the Germans did a deal together where the Germans would provide Group 935 with funding, and in return, Group 935 would provide the Germans with weapons, teleportation, and an undead army, which is similar to the... Hang on, I can't say that. With YouTube's new things, we can't say that. Anyway, June 4th, 1939. During Test Trial 151, Richthofen and Dr. Schuster successfully teleported a walnut. This is the first successful test where the chemical composition of the objects is maintained through the progress. December 5th, 1939. Edward's walnut delivery fails to impress Maxis, who declares it is a waste of time. He reveals to Richthofen that Group 935 will soon be funded by Germany. Richthofen worries that this will lead to massive defections. He and Schuster decide to continue their teleportation experiments behind Maxis's back. Again, we've already seen that on the radio. Richthofen was doing experiments behind Maxis's back. Maxis wasn't happy about this, but anyway, Richthofen continued because he thought that this was the best thing that could happen to Group 935. So they continued on with their experiments, Richthofen and Schuster. January 4th, 1940. Richthofen and Schuster conduct the first human teleportation test. Richthofen is so confident in his success, he volunteers the MPD, the ether pyramid. He volunteers the MPD, the ether pyramid hidden by the apothecans. While inspecting to deceive Richthofen, what the hell, guys, I'm losing my mind. We're not even half. Look how long this page is. Okay, now let's go back up. All right, how is everyone doing? Things are getting crazy already. I'm going to read some of your comments, see what you guys are saying. Let me bring the live chat up. Right. Yeah, I'm sorry about that that Windows 10 notification. I don't know why it keeps popping up. It's so annoying. I can't sort out the PC. I don't know what I've got to do. Right. If you're in the live stream, make sure you leave a like rating if you enjoy. Let's freaking continue with this. Man, I wish I had a drink. I don't want to leave you guys. I've got some chili sauce I could drink. We've got some Cholula. We've got Jeebus on the front there. That's not Jeebus. We don't know who that is. That's the Cholula guy. Right, anyway. Okay. January 4th, 1940. Richthofen and Schuster conduct the first human teleportation test. Richthofen is so confident in its success, he volunteers the MPD, the ether pyramid hidden by the apothecans. So the MPD was a pyramid of the apothecans of their creation. While inspecting the device, Richthofen is electrocuted and begins hearing the many voices of corruption, including that of the Shadow Man. The device then teleports him to Shangri-La, corrupted by the dark ether. Richthofen is gradually being driven insane by an obsession, find Argotha. So when Richthofen touched the MPD pyramid, he started hearing voices in his head. We thought that he was going insane, and even though that is the case, the voice that he was specifically hearing was the Shadow Man. In Moon, or before that, just after Derice, when Richthofen touched that MPD, the person talking to him was the Shadow Man, and Richthofen became corrupted by the dark ether. He began to turn evil. January 5th, 1940. Richthofen is worshipped by the natives of Shangri-La. An altar is built in his name. Richthofen encounters the focusing stone for the first time. So that explains why we have the altar for Shangri-La. If we just bring that up, you can see... Oh, okay. Anyway. Let's just pirate zombies in here. I don't know if we can actually get an image of it, but in Shangri-La there's an altar with Richthofen's name that you find the focusing stone on. We can't find an image. Well, this sucks, but right here. This is the altar. You see Richthofen's name just there. This was built for Richthofen because the people of Shangri-La in the Himalayas, I'm guessing, you know, since he was a stranger, ultimately this white person who came to this village hidden in the middle of nowhere, he was worshipped. And so for that reason, they built him an altar. Interesting. We've never known up until now why that altar was there, so that pretty much explains it. January 23rd, 1940. After a near month absence, Richthofen returns to Schuster with a plan to build Griffin Station. We know that. January 24th, 1940. Richthofen re-announces his involvement with the Illuminati. When asked how he could abandon his obligation to the Order, he says Teddy was a liar. What? That doesn't make sense. Richthofen re-announces his involvement with the Illuminati. When asked how he could abandon his obligation to the Order, he says Teddy was a liar. Okay. But haven't we thought that Richthofen was Teddy, so he's saying that he is a liar? I don't know. March 13th, 1940. Construction of Griffin Station on the Moon begins. Frustrated with Maxis and the alignment with Germany, other disgruntled Group 935 scientists join in the course. So now he's beginning to build Griffin Station. July 13th, 1940. Maxis instructs his assistant Sophia to write a letter to the Reichstag High Command requesting additional funds. Though he reports that a mass production will soon be underway shortly, Derice lacks not only the funding but sufficient volumes of Element 115. August 1st, 1940. In response to Maxis' request, Germany creates two new facilities for Group 935. They are the Kino facility, a repurposed theatre, and the asylum facility at Wittenau Sanatorium in Berlin. So Germany set up these two facilities for Group 935. And obviously Richthofen knew nothing about Kino, but he did know about Verrucht. August 18th, 1940. As per Germany's request, the Japanese Imperial Army hands over the Rising Sun facility to Group 935. Division 9 remains involved on the site. So, as we know, Group 935 and Division 9 had an alliance. They were working together. The site become overrun, I guess. So it was too much for, as we learn in the cipher, it was a bit too much for Division 9 to handle. And so, because of Japan and Germany working together, German told Japan that they need to hand Shinonuma over to Group 935. Group 935 worked at Shinonuma alongside Division 9. October 3rd, 1940. Group 935 establishes a research facility in Siberia near Tunguska River. November 6, 1940. Group 935 establishes a research facility at Der Eisendrache. June 24th, 1941. Nikolai Blensky's wife is killed during the German advance into the Soviet Union. Nikolai's wife was killed in the war, okay. In an effort to numb the pain, Nikolai increasingly turns to vodka. That explains why he's a drunk. July 11th, 1942. Maxis gives Fluffy to Samantha. The dog is expecting puppies. January 20th, 1942. Maxis tests the first file for storage on the data servant. And as we see, we can actually go into Black Ops itself, go into the data files and see all that information for ourselves. January 26, 1942. On the data servant, Maxis catalogues locations with prominent Element 115 deposits. He includes information about its various applications and cities that the reanimation of dead cells is a possible side effect. January 30th, 1942. Richthofen completes the Wunderwaffe DG2 prototype. February 1st, 1942. With Griffin Station completed, Richthofen names Dr. Groff lead scientist and returns to Earth to continue the charade with Maxis. Working alongside Schuster, Groff is left to discover the power of the MPD. It's a little bit difficult to read because some of the commas don't seem to be in here where they probably should. So you've got to forgive me that. What are you guys saying? So, right, if you haven't left a like rating and you're enjoying the video so far, this is an awful freaking lot to get through. A like rating would be much appreciated. I could do with a drink right now, but we're going to soldier on through this. April 17th, 1942. Hang on, we've missed one. Where are we going? February 2nd, 1942. In a speech to his staff, Groff talks optimistically about Griffin Station's establishment as a permanent base of operations. April 17th, 1942. Maxis develops the ray gun prototype at the Rising Sun facility. H. Porter works on developing the second generation model. We know that if you go into the game files, or the, as it said earlier, the data servant, or whatever it was called, it says right here, yeah, if you go into the data servant, you can actually find out that Maxis, using a prototype that he got from Shinonuma, he made the ray gun. H. Porter makes the second generation ray gun, which is the Pack-a-Punch version, and he also makes the ray gun Mark II, so that's freaking interesting as well. June 13th, 1942. A result of temporal rifts in 1963 Kino, Monty reaches across time and offers little nudges. One nudge is developing Group 935's Element 115 fused. What's that say? Alex series? They create 4 medicinal beverages known as Juggernog, Quick Revive, Speed Cola, and Double Tap. That, the creation of the perks. As a result of the temporal rift in 1963 Kino, Monty reaches across time to offer little nudges. So Monty has been involved in the storyline all this time. He wasn't just involved Origins and after that. Obviously he's this god, so he's been involved since bloody AD, But in 1963, Kino, he reached across time and started to give little nudges to Group 935. One of these was developing medicinal beverages. Juggernog, Quick Revive, Speed Cola, and Double Tap. Group 935 made these perks using Element 115 with just a little help on the side from Dr. Monty. That's interesting. June 28th, 1942. Group 935 continues development of a Wonder Weapon upgrade machine. Group 935 made the Pack-a-Punch. Gotta be, right? The Wonder Weapon upgrade machine, it's gotta be the Pack-a-Punch. From the quote that we heard in Reese, Richthofen said that it was created by a good friend of his in the Old West. Let's see, maybe it'll mention that. July 18th, 1942. Groff and Schuster unwittingly discover how to charge the MPD. When Schuster kills a rat near the device, that's spelt wrong, its death inexplicably begins filling the tank. Charging the device, they report their findings to Richthofen. July 20th, 1942. Richthofen begins sending soldiers and scientists to the moon to be sacrificed. Their souls are used to charge the MPD. What? Why was Richthofen doing that? Sending people to the moon and killing them near the MPD so it could be filled up and charged. November 5th, 1942. Takeo Masaki is dispatched by the Emperor to oversee the work of Group 935 and Division 9 at the Rising Sun facility. So he was kind of like a spy to spy on Group 935 and Division 9 at the Rising Sun facility. So Takeo was actually sent to Shinonuma. December 8th, 1942. Richthofen shares Element 115 based on, what does that say? Elixir recipes with Griffin Station. They develop Mule Kick. Man, freaking Group 935 and Richthofen made the perks. Although we never had any hint towards it in the older games. December 9th, 1942. Nikolai's brother is killed in the Battle of Stalingrad. December 14th, 1942. Richthofen creates the Monkey Bomb. December 16th, 1942. In a personal log, Maxis expresses concern over Element 115's impact on Richthofen's behaviour. No longer trusting him, he wonders if it was a mistake to invite him to Group 935. December 20th, 1942. Accompanied by Sophia, Maxis is transferred to the Kino facility to focus on creating Germany's undead army. Samantha is left in Richthofen's care. Bad decision, mate. Terrible decision. Should not have left him. What are you guys saying? Gonna get the chat up. That's interesting. Right. January 8th, 1943. Maxis worries he and Sophia have grown too close. He considers sending her away. January 16th, 1943. Nikolai is captured by German forces during the Battle of Stalingrad. He becomes a subject in Group 935's experiment. So that explains where Nikolai was captured by Group 935. January 27th, 1943. Maxis reports success with Subject 26, whose violent outbursts have been greatly reduced. Maxis believes this method of treatment will be 100% effective in most cases. February 2nd, 1943. The Battle of Stalingrad ends. February 10th, 1943. Maxis reports the treatment has been perfected. He believes if Subject 26 can retain the impressions longer than 26 hours, then the delivery of the zombie army can be accelerated. So this is Maxis and Kino der Toten trying to create an undead army. February 12th, 1943. After attacking a handler, Subject 26 is killed and deemed another setback. So obviously it wasn't successful. They were trying to create this zombie. It wasn't successful. And the zombie, otherwise known as Subject 26, started to attack the employees of Group 935 and so had to be killed. May 18th, 1943. Harvey Yeaner begins to work with Group 935. January 4th, 1943. Primus arrives from Dimension 63. In an effort to prevent the events that are about to unfold, they formulate a plan to stop this dimension's Richthofen. June 11th, 1943. Richthofen is contacted from the house by Maxis. The storyline's changed now. Who warns that the subjects must never be allowed to awaken. The havoc that could be awakened upon the future by such simple-minded individuals could be catastrophic. So we hear in the giant intro cutscene that... No. We hear in the intro cutscene that Takeo and the crew want to awaken their test subjects, whilst Richthofen, he doesn't want to do that. As we know, as Maxis tells him, they must not awaken. If they do, then those whole events are just going to take place once again. June 15th, 1943. Takeo reports to the Emperor that the work being done at the Rising Sun facility is unacceptable. June 19th, 1943. Primus Richthofen is teleported to the house in Argotha, reuniting him with Maxis. June 24th, 1943. On the orders of the Emperor, Takeo is taken prisoner by Group 935 and Division 9 is used as a test subject for experiments. We see that happen in Zetsubo Noshima. Takeo becomes this big, giant creature. Can you guys see this? Do you want me to zoom in? Better? Okay. Sound. Okay. See what you guys are saying. Right. July 4th, 1944. After the setbacks with Subject 26, what time is it? Maxis reports new success with the Undead Army. However, he maintains his belief that the Undead cannot be controlled or maintained. Damn it, I can't see the thing though. September 2nd, 1944. Pablo Marinas, a Mexican spy, is captured by Group 935 at Der Eisendrache. May 9th, 1945. In his cell, Pablo writes a visions of the Great War. He describes a great battle against strange demon-like creatures who were trying to devour the earth. In his vision, he sees 4 knights protecting him from certain death. He makes a note that the knights wore tunics similar to those in Der Eisendrache. June 4th, 1945, Nakdo and Toten. This story of that, guys. An Allied plane malfunctions over an airfield and crashes. German army trucks transporting the undead in Element 115 between Group 935 facilities is struck. Okay, spelling mistake. Is struck in the crash. The Marines surviving. What the hell has happened here? The Marines surviving the crash hold out against the undead. That is the simple story of Nakdo and Toten. A plane that was flying over the site, over the airfield, crashed into German trucks that were carrying zombies and Element 115 to a Group 935 base. The plane crashed into the trucks, causing these Marines to fall back into the base of Nakdo and Toten and basically fight for their lives. So, simple enough. June 17th, 1945. Peter McCain infiltrates Group 935 at Dries. June 29th, 1945. Graf and Schuster develop the wave gun. July 15th, 1945. Richthofen travels to the Siberia facility, which is Call of the Dead, to do further research on live specimens. As her temporal guardian, he takes Samantha with him. What the hell? He takes Samantha to Call of the Dead? Okay. Group 935 begins transferring 3 test subjects for experimentation. Nikolai, Pablo, and Takeo. I'm going. Guys, I need a drink. Right. So you guys are saying. It's so strange because there's so much information that we've never heard about before. And then there's so much information that... like, there's no way we could have figured out this whole story because there's little bits and gaps that have been missing for a long time. Like, for example, the story of Nakdur and Totem, right? A plane flying over, crashing into German trucks. There's no signs at all in Zombies that ever happened. All we know that there's a plane that crashed and there's some Marines that fell back. We don't know that a plane crashed into a truck. So without this, these bits of story would have never come together, which is interesting. It also makes me wonder, does this also cover ciphers that haven't been solved in the game? As we know, there's hundreds of ciphers, well, not hundreds, but tens of ciphers that haven't been solved in Black Ops 3. So, is there any point in even solving that anymore? It's an interesting question. July 15th, 1945. We've read that one. July 29th, 1945. While Richthofen works at the Siberian site, Group 935 begins development on Deadshot Daiquiri. So that's them creating yet another perk. August 1st, 1945. The test subjects arrive at the Siberian facility for Richthofen's experiments. So finally, Nikolai, Pablo and Takio arrive at Call of the Dead. August 31st, 1945. CIA handler Cornelius Pernell, so that was the handler for Peter McCain, has successfully infiltrated Group 935. Peter McCain has been transferred to the asylum, which is Verrucht. Cornelius suspects that Group 935 is losing control of their experiments and has sent in a Marine recon team to extract Peter McCain. Tank Dempsey is the leader of the squad. September 1st, 1945, Peter is outed by a spy and captured by Group 935. So, Peter in Verrucht, he didn't escape himself. He was... hang on. He was captured by Group 935, okay. I wonder how he ends up at Shinonuma. September 2nd, 1945. Richthofen reports Pablo has died following a spleen removal, and he also reveals that it's been performing experiments... Guys, there's someone downstairs. Guys, I don't know what to do. I'll read your comments. What are you saying? BlackOpsAmazing, what do you think... Jesus Christ. What do you think the rumour that the PS5 will be released in 2018? No. Hey bro, been sub for a while, you're my favourite YouTuber. Does this timeline have the full story? Yeah. Right, okay. Let's continue. Guys, it is so freaking long. September 2nd, 1945. I'd go shut my door, but I'm not wearing anything. Just give me a sec. I'm gonna have to talk. Just gonna come in low, guys. Not wearing any underwear here. Right, anyway, so. Anyway. Time is it? God, I've got to go out in 40 minutes. September 2nd, 1945. Let's get through this. Richthofen reports Pablo has died following a spleen or removal. It's also been revealed he's been performing experiments on Samantha. We knew that. September 2nd, 1945. World War II ends. Group 935 continues their research. September 2nd, 1945. Temporal rifts begin to affect the asylum facility. An orderly An orderly reports increasing problems with test subjects. Many in the facility have begun hearing voices coming from the walls, including the sobbing of a boy and girl, screaming, and a man shouting for children to close the windows. September 3rd, 1945. An outbreak occurs at the asylum facility. Peter McCain escapes. So, September 6, 1945. Verrückt. Dempsey, John Banner, Smokey, and the 4th Marine arrive at the asylum facility to find it overrun by zombies. They fight off the horde as long as they can. Dempsey is apprehended by Group 935. As we know, Dempsey was the only survivor, and the others are eventually killed. September 7th, 1945. John Banner writes messages and records his last words whilst being eaten alive by the undead. By an undead Smokey. So his friend that was sent in with him turned into a zombie and started to eat John. September 10th, 1945. Richthofen reports another spy is being captured and will be brought in to replace the Mexican. The subject is Dempsey. So Dempsey gets captured at Verrückt and is sent to replace Pablo Marinas. September 13th, 1945. Cornelius Pernell attempts to send a transmission to Peter McCain, telling him to go to the Rising facility. September 17th, 1945. Dempsey arrives at Call of the Dead. September 20th, 1945. Richthofen documents the personality traits of his test subjects. Dempsey's intellect seems low, but he is strong. Takio is still staring at the floor, muttering what sounds like some kind of proverb over and over again. Nikolai has recently begun responding to stimuli, but only after the injections of the new serum made primarily from vodka. Richthofen notes that their minds have almost entirely broken, with no memory remaining of who they once were. September 27th, 1945. Richthofen returns to Dries with Dempsey, Nikolai, Takio, and Samantha. October 1st, 1945. Maxis reports on Richthofen's findings. With his live test subjects. Right, let me read that again. Sorry. Maxis reports on Richthoffen's findings with his live test subjects, noting that while their baseline physique remains intact, all specific memories have been lost. October 1st, 1945. If I remember, that's an important date. Infuriated to learn that Maxis has not been mass-producing the DG2, as he swore he would, Richthofen revels in his plot to destroy Maxis and Samantha, vowing that he will no longer continue to work on his undead army. October 8th, 1945. Richthofen reports to... Oh man, I'm getting messed up now, guys. Let me go get a drink. Hang on. Got a duck again. Got a duck. I'm back. Right. That was a much needed drink. I think the interesting things are so far that we've learned that Arthur was the servant of the Wolf King, and then a temporal rift teleported him over to Buried. A lot of it we kind of know from radios, but I'm fucking excited to get to Mobile though. Right. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry about the notification. Just try to ignore it. Right, if you're enjoying the video, like rating would be appreciated. Friendly reminder. Let's continue on. Look how much we've got. We're on page 10. Let's get to 10. October 1st, 1945. Maxis reports on Richthoffen's findings with his live test subjects, noting that while their baseline physique remains intact, all specific memories have been lost. October 1st, 1945. Infuriated to learn that Maxis is not being reproduced in the DG2 as he swore he would, Richthofen reveals the plot to destroy Maxis and Samantha. We read that. October 8th, 1945. Groff reports to Richthofen that the MPD is nearly ready. I've got hiccups. October 12th, 1945. Groff radios Richthofen to inform him that the device has been powered up and is awaiting conduit. Richthofen says that he will proceed with Operation Shield and dispose of Maxis and Samantha. October 13th, 1945. They're infuriated with the matter transference tests. Guys, I'm just getting a little bit messed up now. There's so much to read. Just be patient. Is there a German version available yet of this? Yeah, it'd be good to see like translations of this for other people. October 13th, 1945. They're infuriated with the matter transference tests that have largely been unsuccessful. Maxis acknowledges that the test subject's departure from their original point of origins is undeniable. However, Richthofen suggests that the subjects have been teleported not through space but time itself, which causes Maxis to worry if his irrationality may soon prove a liability to our endeavours. October 13th, 1945. Maxis and Richthofen perform teleportation test trials on test subjects number 3, 4, and 5. All we know this. All fail, including test 5, and where Maxis uses Fluffy as test 6 chamber. Samantha sees Fluffy, runs in the teleporter. Maxis chases her. Richthofen seals them both in the test chamber. Teleports all 3 of them. As we know, Maxis and Richthofen experimented on Samantha's dog Fluffy, and eventually that led Maxis and Samantha to be teleported away by Richthofen. October 13th, 1945. Samantha is teleported to the moon while Groff and Schuster work on the MPD. Running into the MPD, she is drawn inside of it, where she becomes corrupted by the dark ether. October 13th, 1945. Maxis is teleported to the crazy place and develops the power to merge electricity. What the hell? So Maxis wasn't teleported to Shangri-La, he was teleported to the crazy place. Okay. October 13th, 1945. Richthofen returns to the moon. Learning Samantha is trapped in the MPD, he orders Groff to teleport Maxis there to coax her to basically tell her to come out of the device. He also warns Groff to keep an eye out for an evil-looking dog. October 13th, 1945. In an effort to free Samantha, Maxis approaches the MPD to persuade her to come out. Once she does, Maxis gives her an instruction to kill them all. Maxis kills himself and merges with technology of Griffin Station, while Samantha unleashes the undead upon the base. So, Groff didn't kill Maxis, as I suspected. When Maxis told Samantha to kill every last member of Group 935, probably before Groff could kill Maxis, he killed himself anyway. Groff probably would have killed Maxis for saying that. And then when he was killed, he was merged with the technology in Griffin Station. His soul, he got merged into the computer because of the electrical powers he gained from the crazy place. Interesting. October 13th, 1945. In an effort to free Samantha... we just read that. We just read that. October 14th, 1945. H. Porter activates the alarm as an outbreak occurs at De Rees. Before taking a cyanide capsule, he says he's all out of hope, God forgive us. We hear at the end of the De Rees radio, H. Porter kills himself. Okay. October 14th, 1945. Richthofen returns to De Rees and awakens Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai. With no reconciliation of who they are or who Richthofen is, they agree to help him. The four would become known as Ultimus. If we see Ultimus throughout this, that refers to the original 4 characters. October 18th, 1945. Peter McCain parachutes over the Rising Sun facility. He dies shortly after. October 21st. So he wasn't I guess we'll see. October 21st, 1945, Shinonuma. Ultimus travels to the Rising Sun facility to recover Richthofen's diary. Upon reading it, Richthofen begins to form his plans to defeat Samantha. So that's the reason why they went to Shinonuma to collect a diary that Richthofen left there when he was working there with Group 935. And we actually see that diary when we play Shinonuma. You can go in it, press the interactive button on the book, and you hear his evil laugh. October 28th, 1945, Dries. Ultimus returns to Dries with his diary. Richthofen plans to use the teleporter to return to the moon and confront Samantha. Unfortunately, the Wunderwaffe DG2 overloads the teleporter and sends them through time, causing Richthofen to drop his diary, so he loses it. November 5th, 1945, Group 935 is disbanded. January 19th, 1946, the United States and the Soviet Union share the resources recovered from Group 935's various research stations. Man, I freaking knew this. I said this in my 5 and Ascension video. Richthofen's diary is among the items recovered by the Soviet Union. So the Americans and the Russians, when Dries was abandoned, they had like they both went there and took items that Group 935 just left there, which is interesting. Okay. January 27th, 1946, the Pentagon hires many former Group 935 scientists in an effort to replicate their work. January 29th, 1946. As with their US counterparts, the Soviets hire many former Group 935 scientists. Among them is Harvey Yena, who forms the Ascension Group. July 29th, 1952, the Pentagon begins experiments involving their own versions of the undead. May 12th, 1955, the US government transfers a number of Element 115 experiments to Groom Lake facility, which is, I believe that's Moon, where you start at the beginning of Moon. October 19th, 1955, Gersh and Yuri Zavosky begin working at the Ascension Group. What was that? April 25th, 1956, Shangri-La. Explorers Brock and Gary discover Shangri-La during an eclipse. They're unwittingly trapped in a time loop. Sally, sent back in time from 2011, is trapped in the same loop. Ultimus arrives in Shangri-La. With the help of Brock and Gary, they acquire the Focusing Stone. Oh god, so that woman that we hear in the Revelations radio isn't Sarah from Call of the Dead. She's actually Sally, who I believe is an assistant of George A. Romero. She was doing some research on him, which eventually led her to become trapped in the same loop that Brock and Gary are trapped in Shangri-La. June 3rd, 1959. The Pentagon constructs their own prototype teleporter and commences experimentation. I think their own prototype teleporter is the ones that we see in 5, based off the ones that they stole or took from Dries. March 15th, 1962. Studying Group 935's medicinal elixir research, the Ascension Group develops PhD Flopper and Stamina. So, the Ascension Group made PhD and Stamina. What the hell? Okay, interesting. And they're based off perk machines that they stole from Dries. November 11th, 1962, Gersh begins to work on Project Thunder. December 12th, 1962, Gersh and Yuri begin to work on the Gersh device, codenamed Project Mercury. June 15th, 1963, the Pentagon begins development on their own version of the Wunderwaffe DG2. So that explains why we see the Wunderwaffe in the Pentagon. They stole Group 935's version, or Richthofen's version, and started to create their own one. August 17th, 1963, the Pentagon begins development on their own version of the Winter's Howl. Again, another weapon that wasn't originally theirs. They stole it, and then they made their own version. So what you guys are saying? Nothing too important to the story. What zombies are we on? Right now we're on Black Ops 1. Right, okay, let's move on. I've got to get this done. Oh, man, there's so much information at once. I was wondering if it was too much at once. October 28th, 1963, Kino der Toten. From De Rees, Ultimus, otherwise known as the original characters, teleport to Kino. This marks the first time Ultimus travels across space and time, temporal rifts across all dimensions. In light of these developments, Monty feels obligated to step in and begins to make changes in the background across time. He helps Group 935 invent perk machines. He adds chalk drawings to the walls, little nudges. Ultimus locates a lunar lander and flies to the Ascension facility. What? They what? They find a lunar lander in Kino der Toten? We do see at the beginning of Ascension they come down on a lunar lander. Okay. October 29th, 1963. Gersh informs the senior staff that Yuri has been removed from Project Mercury and begins to work on research for rocket research. October 29th, 1963. Yuri begins to notice that the appearance of children's toys is happening around the facility. November 1st, 1963. Upon reading Richthofen's diary, Yuri begins to... Richthofen's diary, when he lost it in teleportation, it ended up at Ascension. It was teleported to Ascension instead of going with him, and Yuri ended up finding it and started to read it. Sorry about that noise there. As Yuri's reading it, he begins to hear Samantha's voice. Over several days, her voice will consume him, driving him to resume his research on the Gersh device. He obeys. November 4th, 1963, Gersh announces to the committee that the Project Thunder is near completion. Gersh reveals Yuri may need to be removed from Ascension entirely, having observed his being. Basically Yuri was hostile towards the other scientists and frequently started to mutter to himself, so Gersh became concerned and wanted to have him removed from the Ascension base entirely. November 5th, 1963. Obeying Samantha's wishes, Yuri tricks Gersh into activating the Gersh device. The rift created absorbs him and allows Samantha to travel through. Yuri is also absorbed and teleported to the Pentagon. No. So, when Gersh opened the Gersh device, Gersh was sucked in, Yuri was sucked in, this allowed Samantha to travel through, and Gersh was trapped in the Cosmodrome, or the Casmir mechanism, sorry, and Yuri was teleported to the Pentagon. Okay. November 6, 1963, Ascension. Ultimus arrives at the Soviet Cosmodrome and frees Gersh from the Casmir mechanism. Richthofen recovers his diary and learns that they need the Vril device from the Siberian facility for his plan. Maintaining his ethereal form, Gersh sends them into a rift near to their next destination before travelling again through space and time. What the hell? What's going on here? Why is there no movie yet? Hell yeah, there should be a movie, man. This is mint. There's so much that they've added in this. Like, there was so many little gaps. Like, how did that happen? How did he get there? Like, how did, the Ascension group get... how did, they get from Kino to Ascension? Just tiny things like that have been missing in the zombie storyline. Give me a sec. Right, okay. Do you reckon we can blast this in 20 minutes? November 20th, 1963. 5. In the Pentagon, JFK, Richard Nixon and Robert McNamara meet Fidel Castro in the aftermath of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Due to the events at the Cosmodrome, a zombie outbreak occurs. Samantha sends Yuri to the Pentagon to thwart their survival. After Gersh is freed, After Gersh is freed and the Ultimus departs from the Cosmodrome, the outbreak ends at the Pentagon. All four survive. Why is it saying all? That's interesting. It says all four survive, but as we hear from the radio, at least 3 of them clearly die. So maybe we'll get some more on that. But this, Yuri is also absorbed and transported to the Pentagon, and then it says Samantha sends Yuri to the Pentagon to thwart their survival. Yuri is the Pentagon thief. Yuri was sent to the Pentagon by Samantha to kill these Group 935 members working at the Pentagon. Yuri is the Pentagon thief, okay. What the hell? Let me have a look at him. I spelled that wrong. I don't care. Pentagon. What the hell? So that's Yuri. That's Yuri. Now we know what he looks like. Oh yeah, it makes sense. You look at him. He's a scientist. I know there were scientists at 5 already, but were there ever any hints on here for him working at Thingy? He is one of the biggest mysteries we've ever had in zombies. And all this time it was Yuri, okay. Okay. Right. November 19th, 1963. In an effort to avoid another outbreak, the US government creates the Broken Arrow program, establishing several facilities across the country. The Groom Lake program is folded into Broken Arrow. So Broken Arrow has loads of facilities across the US. And not just the one that we see in the comic. August 11th, 1973. Broken Arrow recovers a shard of Element 115 from Division 9. September 29th, 1979. Russman begins to work at Broken Arrow. Over the course of his employment, his extensive exposure to Element 115 leads to significant memory loss. April 20th, 1983. Broken Arrow begins live experiments with the shard creating bios. We've seen that in the comics. June 24th, 1986. Who's that? Damn it. I thought that was my lift. I was supposed to be getting picked up. July 24th, 1986. A contaminant breach involving the bios occurs at one of the Broken Arrow facilities. Russman is one of the few to escape alive. The facility is shut down and abandoned. Its projects are transferred to other locations. June 24th, 1963. Victus. Now remember that Victus is the transit crew. Okay? Malton, Russman, Misty, and Samuel. So Victus arrives at the abandoned Broken Arrow facility. Still pursued by an undead Richthofen, they recover the Element 115 shard and depart through another rift. So this is now talking about the Zombies comics. This character that we see here, this is confirmed that this is Zombies Richthofen. Hang on. We've had our little theories and speculations, but this here is in fact zombified Richthofen. Again, this here is a Zombies Richthofen. Why is this zombified Richthofen following the transit crew if... So we have a zombified Richthofen trying to stop the transit crew from doing something, and then we have Richthofen who is in control of the zombies, telling them to do something else. That's okay. March 17th, 2011, Call of the Dead. After entering the rift, Ultimus, once again the original crew, arrives at the Siberian facility in 2011, which is Call of the Dead, where they find themselves trapped in a closet while George A. Romero films his latest project at the location. Samantha, in a pursuit of Ultimus, unleashes an undead outbreak. So the zombie outbreak only ever happened at Call of the Dead is because the original crew were teleported there. If they were never teleported there, if they never went back to Call of the Dead, the Call of the Dead crew probably would have survived. The film stars fight in the undead horde, ultimately recovering the Vril device for Richthofen. Ultimus teleports to Shangri-La in an effort to acquire the next artifact that is required to defeat Samantha, which is the Focusing Stone. April 11th, 2011. Following the disappearance of the Call of the Dead cast and crew, Romero's assistant Sally begins her search for her boss. Her journey leads her to Shangri-La during an eclipse which sends her back in time to April 25th, 1956. So, the woman that we hear in the Shangri-La radios is Sally, who is Romero's assistant. As we know, as we learned earlier, she was, whilst reading up on Georgie's research, she ended up at Shangri-La and became stuck in the same loop as Brock and Gary. April 10th, 2023, Broken Arrow creates the Denizens. July 8th, 2025, Broken Arrow creates the Avogadro. So, with those story of videos I made on the Avogadro and the Denizens, that's not too far off. I said in that video an unnamed and unknown group of scientists created the Avogadro and the Denizens. Turns out, those unknown group of scientists were Broken Arrow. Those labs that we see underground in transit belong to Broken Arrow. Those are their labs. As we learned earlier, Broken Arrow has labs all throughout the US, and one of those was in Hanford, USA, which is the location of transit. They created the Denizens and the Avogadro. September 1st, 2025. In desperate need of more Element 115, Broken Arrow uses an excavator to drill near the nuclear testing facility known as Nuketown. So, no. Let's bring this up. Nuketown Zombies loading screen. This drill here, this whole facility above here, this belongs to Broken Arrow. They're using this to extract more 115. October 13th, 2025, Moon. Let me see what you guys are saying. Using the drill device and the focusing stone, Richthofen completes his grand scheme and swaps bodies with Samantha on Moon, giving him full control of the zombies and the ether. Maxis contacts the remaining members of Ultimus through the station's electronics and asks for their help to defeat Richthofen. They agree. They launch missiles at Earth, leaving it fractured and broken. They sever Richthofen's connection to the ether, but he maintains control over the zombies. Once Maxis controls the ether in 2035, he returns to Moon, plucks Samantha from Richthofen's body to join him in Argotha. Oh my. This is all too much at once. So we know Richthofen swapped bodies with Samantha and Moon, giving him full control of the zombies and the ether. When he did that, Maxis then contacts the remaining members of Ultimus, which is Nikolai, Takio and Dempsey, telling them to help him defeat Richthofen. They agree. As we know, they launch the missiles to the Earth, which leaves it fractured and broken. That destroys Richthofen's connection to the ether, but he's still in control of the zombies. And so because of this, Maxis, when he controls the ether in 2035, he returns to Moon and takes Samantha from Richthofen's body. She basically gets his soul from Richthofen's body to join him in Argotha. October 13th, 2025, Nuketown Zombies. A nuclear bomb explodes outside of Nuketown as a result of Broken Arrow's drilling. What? CIA and CDC operatives arrive to find an undead outbreak already in progress. One of the missiles from the Moon hits Nuketown, killing all on sight, except from Martin Johnson, who survives by hiding in the bunker. So we know he was at Nuketown already. We can hear him in the bunker. Broken Arrow's drill at Nuketown explodes, causing this nuclear explosion that... So Basically, Nuketown's gone through a lot of crap then. It's got two explosions happen, one from the drill. And the other one from the rocket that hits Earth. October 13th, 2025. The Earth fracturing triggers further temporal rifts, teleporting an 1800s American western town underneath a mining facility in Angola. Arthur is pulled through the rift from 1318, arriving in the now buried town. Guys, I said this in my story or video. I got the date wrong. For some reason, I said the 12th century, but I said 2095 was the date that Leroy or Arthur was teleported from Drazendraka, the castle, to Buried or Angola. That's pretty right. The Earth, because of its fractures and temporal rifts, teleports not only Buried, an 1800s American town, to Angola, but it also pulls Arthur through with it from 1318 to Buried. November 5th, 2025. Broken Arrow is disabandoned after the primary facility is lost in a fire. It is later believed to be an act of arson committed by employees destroying evidence implicating them in the outbreak. Russman, his mind is broken after over 40 years of exposure to element 115. He begins to wander the Earth. March 18th, 2027. In a distress call, former CDC Assistant Director George Barclay reveals that an infectious... What the hell's going on here? Contaminants have gone airborne. He advises caution regarding any allies showing signs of short-term memory loss, delusion and paranoia. March 27th, 2027. Go away! Keeps coming up. A society of survivors who eat the undead is formed. They are the Flesh. As we know, as it says here, Samuel Stuhlinger joins that group. June 28th, 2027. Through the consumption of the undead meat, the Flesh begin hearing Richthofen's voice. That's why Samuel Stuhlinger can hear Richthofen's voice. He tries to persuade them to build global polarization devices for him in pursuit of his new plan to mend the rift in space and time to acquire full control of the ether. So Richthofen wasn't only trying to convince Samuel Stuhlinger to do this, he was trying to convince other people of the Flesh as well. What are you guys saying? We died, but I got the control. Oh god. Hang on, guys. No. Right. How far are we through this now? 16. Oh god, there's so much. Let's go back. Right. June 28th, 2027. Maxis begins communicating to survivors of Earth, telling those willing to listen to build global polarization devices for him in pursuit of his new plan. We've read that. April 4th, 2028. The Flash broadcast their message across all frequencies. They tell others to heed our call, and that the path of alignment can be achieved by consuming the undead. December 9th, 2028. Maxis' followers begin constructing a spire near the Hanford site facility. So it's Maxis' followers that construct the spire in transit. January 3rd, 2029. Maxis' followers begin to doubt him, believing he may in fact be evil. They destroy their electronics. March 2nd, 2029. Maxis' followers attempt to speak to him again. Many have begun to hear Richthofen and those loyal to Maxis eagerly await further instruction. August 15th, 2029. A broadcast is sent out confirming the fall of the Flesh and Maxis' followers. With each group hearing the voice of Richthofen or Maxis, a battle broke out between them. As they fought, a zombie horde moved in and destroyed all who remained. Stuhlinger is one of few to escape. Richthofen and Maxis are left with no one to communicate with near Green One. Green One? Green One. Where their first polarization device must be constructed. October 13th, 2035. Stuhlinger bumps into Richthofen, who has stolen the bus from an abandoned Broken Arrow facility. So the bus is from there, okay. What about Ted? October 21st, 2035, transit. Stuhlinger and Russman run into Martin and Misty at a diner near the Hanford site facility. Maxis asks them to complete the polarization device in his favour. Stuhlinger, having consumed zombie meat, is contacted by Richthofen, who orders Stuhlinger to construct the device for him instead. The crew construct the device for Maxis. The four would become known as Victus. So, Maxis' side, when we do the Easter eggs for Transit, Die Rise and Buried, we have a choice between doing the Easter egg for Maxis and Richthofen. Obviously at the end we get two different endings, but actually Maxis' side is the proper one. Richthofen's side is kind of like not canon to the story, I guess I could say. So, interesting. October 22nd, 2035, Die Rise. Still hoping to regain control, Richthofen teleports Victus to Provenance 22, where he demands that Stuhlinger activates the second polarization device. Once again, the crew sides with Maxis. The voices cease for some time, leaving Victus to wander the Earth. December 31st, 2035, Buried. Victus arrives at an old western town located beneath a mining facility in Angolia. They discover Arthur in a jail cell. He assists them on their journey. The voice of Maxis and Richthofen return. They activate the final polarization device in Maxis' favour again. Now corrupted by dark ether, he reveals... What? Now corrupted by the dark ether, he reveals his true intentions to Victus and punishes Richthofen by trapping his soul in a zombie. Drawn into Agatha by her father, Samantha witnesses the evil that has corrupted him. When a rift opens at Dimension 63 in 1918, she reaches out to a timeline that helps... What the hell? Because Maxis has been in... where is he? Because Maxis has been in the ether for so long, when he was in the... got teleported or trapped in the ether over on Moon when he was killed... Because he's been in there so long, the dark ether corrupted his mind, just like it did to Richthofen when he touched the MPD. The same thing happened to Maxis when he was trapped in the ether. And because of that, just like Richthofen, Maxis turned evil, where he trapped Richtofen's soul inside of a zombie. He told the Victus crew that they are going to be punished, or I think essentially killed, we'll find out. And Samantha, because of this, Samantha sees that her father is in fact evil and corrupt by the dark ether, and in order to fix this, she opens up a rift in Dimension 63, teleports to 1918, where she wants to fix things. That's crazy. Because Maxis turned evil, when a rift opens in Dimension 63, Samantha teleported back to 1918, where she reached out to her father once again to try and fix things. Okay. June 10th, 2036. Richthofen instructs undead Richthofen to pursue Victus and recover their blood vials. So Richthofen is the one instructing his undead version to pursue the transit crew. That's why he's following them. January 19th, 2036. Primus Richthofen begins to manipulate Stuhlinger, opening a rift for Victus. Open a rift for Victus to begin their new journey. Persuaded by Undead Richthofen and the Undead Army, and the army of the Undead, Victus enters the rift. What the hell? January 19th, 2036. Maxis destroys Earth and all its surviving inhabitants. So that's the end of the buried Easter egg, I guess. 2036. Right. What page are we on? 17 of 33. Oh, God. I've got to do this, guys. Wait. Back from the id. How are you guys doing so far? What you guys... Oh, God. The comments are coming up. If you're enjoying the video, leave a like rating. Things are so freaking intense, like Maxis and Samantha traveling. What the hell's going on? It's bloody crazy, guys. It's crazy. Let me just text this dude back. Hang on. Sometime. Hopefully not long. Right. We're now on to Dimension 63. Haven't we read some of this? I think... Hang on. No, we haven't read some of this. Okay, it's just the start's a bit the same. So, this is another dimension now. Dimension 63. January 15th, 1942. Let me know in the comments how long we've been streaming. I actually can't tell because I'm on the computer. And it can't look on my phone. So, Dimension 63. January 15th, 2092. The Great War between humanity and the Apothicans begins. So this is a different dimension to the timeline that I've just told you. So, 1292, again, the Great War between humanity and the Apothicans begins. April 14th, 1294, read it properly. Sir Pablo Marinus is saved from the clutches of a Margwa by 4 unknown heroes. They will later become known as Primus. December 31st, 1299. Together with the Keepers, Primus defeat the Apothicans, bringing the Great War to an end. Okay, that's similar to before. January 1st, 1300. Before they seemingly disappear into history, Primus instructs the Wolf King to begin building Der Eisendrache. February 18th, 1300. Pablo begins documenting the Great War, including all he has learned about the Keepers, Apothicans, and Element 115. Regarding Element 115's powers, he noted that a site in northern France contains massive deposits of the element. Okay, June 4th, 1300. In northern France, a tomb is constructed in honour of the fallen soldiers of the Great War. Within it, the statues of Primus are constructed to symbolise the hope that if one day a great evil falls upon mankind, they may return. That shit happens, man, as we know they do. July 17th, 1898. Edward Richthofen's parents die. Think about it, 1898, it's a hell of a long time ago. So Edward's parents die, we knew that. February 20th, 1905. Takeo Misaki fights in the Battle of Mukden. August 11th, 1906. Richthofen begins his studies at Halberg University under the tutor of Dr. Ludwig Maxis. Having lost his parents, Richthofen comes to view him as a fatherly figure. July 3rd, 1912. Richthofen and Maxis join Group 935. So, because Richthofen was a student under Maxis, Maxis saw him as having great potential and so invited him into Group 935. June 4th, 1914. Richthofen is visited by another version of himself. Handing him some blood vials, he explains, "You will need this blood. When the time comes, I will protect you," before stepping back through the rift. That explains how the Origins version of Richthofen already had the blood vials. he got the blood... The Origins version of Richthofen got the blood vials because before that, in 1914, we play Origins in 1918. So 4 years before we play, Richthofen visited himself in Origins, another version of himself, and handed him the blood vials. And all he said was, you need these, keep these, and when the time comes, it will protect you. He stepped back through the rift, and that was the end of him. Okay. January 5th, 1915, Maxis invents the Mauser prototype. We knew that was a weapon of Maxis's anyway. August 28th, 1916, the journey of Pablo Marinus, the night of the Great War, is discovered by Group 935. March 23rd, 1917. Using information gathered from Pablo's journal, Group 935 began work at the dig site in northern France, where they discover a series of underground tombs. April 21st, 1917. Group 935 discover what happens, what appears... Hang on. Group 935 discovers what appears to be the entrance to the tomb's main chamber. They struggle to gain access. Guys, I'm struggling about words. 1, we've read probably a million words, and 2, my throat was so dry. May 11th, 1917, but we're going to soldier on through this. This is so freaking interesting. Unable to access the main chamber, soldiers listen to a gramophone to alleviate their frustration. When listening to a recording of La Source Noire, the entrance to the main chamber unexpectedly opens. The camp's exposure to element 115 begins. May 1st, 1917. Using information from Pablo's journal and the tomb's main chamber, Maxis draws schematics for the creation of 4 elemental staffs and instructs Richthofen to begin construction. May 29th, 1917. The more Maxis reads of the Great War, this is all from Pablo's journal, who was actually a knight in the Great Battle. The more Maxis reads of the Great War, the more he begins to question his understanding of the scientific world and the true nature of the universe itself. He finds himself open to the possibility of a higher power. That higher power, as we know, is Dr. Monty. June 11th, 1917. As Group 935 experiments with element 115, they successfully create... Hang on, there's something wrong in here. Crate. Okay. As Group 935 experiment with 115, they successfully create a localized energy field which appear to function as portals. Those are the generators that we see in Origins, I'm assuming. Noting that objects can pass through them. Maxis speculates that the rifts that he may have opened... What? Speculates that he rifts... Yeah, there's some spelling mistakes in here. Maxis speculates that rifts he may have opened... Hang on. Maxis speculates... When he opened the rift, he opened a gateway across space and time. Okay, it's a better way to word it. The rifts allow Samantha to reach out to Maxis from Agotha. She begs him to help and ultimately reveals that she is his daughter. Okay, so... Wow. Group 935 in Origins, while experimenting with element 115, created these generators, the localized energy fields. These appear to act as portals, noting that things could pass through them. Maxis speculated that one of these rifts was a gateway to an opening in space and time. And in fact, this rift allowed Samantha, who travelled back from Buried to 1918, to contact Maxis from Agotha, where she began telling him that she was his daughter. Obviously, Maxis wasn't going to believe this because in 1918, Samantha wasn't supposed to be born, or, she wasn't supposed to be there. June 15th, 1917. An ancient box with the power of manifest weapons from different eras arrives through a portal. Maxis fears that element 115 is disrupting the space-time continuum. July 1st, 1917. Following the installation of element 115 power generators, reports surfaced regarding ancient figures emerging from them. We know those generators and the figures coming from them are like those Templar zombie figures. I guess we'll see. And these figures are corresponding with the mysterious deaths and of a number of Group 935 soldiers. The ancient figures are undead knights from the Great War. What the hell? So those ancient figures that appear when we activate the generators in Origins. Let me get that up. Origins generators. I don't know if we'll get an exact picture of those guys. Yeah, you can. Oh, you can't really see them. These guys here. We see them again. Yeah, these guys here. These are undead knights that took part in the Great War. In what day was it? Yeah, it took part in the Great War between the Apothicans and the humans all those years ago. And they've been reanimated as these zombie figures because of the 115. Okay. August 3rd, 1917. Nikolai Belensky is sent into exile. And I believe that's because didn't he kill his wives and Stalin became scared of him and so sent him into exile. September 10th, 1917. Using element 115, Group 935 constructs Freya, Odin and Thor. Giant robots who they believe will secure victory for the Central Powers. September 22nd, 1917. Richthofen notes that in spite of Group 935's progress at the dig site, he is troubled by Maxis's growing obsession with Pablo's diary. Maxis, mate, you're becoming crazy. October 6th, 1917. Takeo was dispatched to France by the Emperor to gather intel on Group 935's weapon technology. November 19th, 1917. Following reports of prototype armoured weaponry in a strange light in the sky, a mysterious plague, and even the giant metal men, the giant robots, Tank Dempsey is deployed into northern France to assess the extent of Group 935's capabilities. December 10th, 1917. Already exiled in Europe, Nikolai receives new orders from the Imperial Russian army to investigate the enemy war machine. Still loyal to the motherland, he willingly obliges. So we already know that all three of these characters, Nikolai, Takeo and Dempsey, were all sent to the Group 935 site in Origins or France to investigate what was going on. February 23rd, 1918. Nikolai writes of the ongoing civil war in his homeland. He does not expect peace to last long, but is enjoying his time in France. March 2nd, 1918. Learning that the Emperor wishes to meet him to discuss a matter of great importance to our nation, Takeo writes that he feels a growing sense of dread in a wake of his recent dark, twisted dreams. April 14th, 1918. Despite ongoing battles, Dempsey fares well in northern France. In a personal letter, he reveals that both the Japanese and the Russian armies have also sent spies to investigate the activities of Group 935. May 1st, 1918. Maxis is obsessed with the voice of Samantha, who now speaks to him constantly. He believes her to be the key to everything. Mate, she's your freaking daughter. Get your head together. May 12th, 1918. Believing that his mentor, Maxis, has been affected by 115 like the others at the dig site, Richthofen reports Maxis's erratic behaviour to Group 935 senior staff. May 13th, 1918. Richthofen learns from Pablo's journal that the northern France dig site may be the single largest deposit of element 115 on Earth. He believes this explains why it affected so many at the dig site. May 4th, 1918. Now completely consumed by Samantha's voice, Maxis swears he will no longer serve to Group 935's mission. Obviously, Samantha will be telling Maxis to, don't bother with Group 935, since in the end she saw her dad in the other universe ended up becoming corrupted by the Dark Ether. She doesn't want to see that happen again, so goes back in time and tries to tell him to stop working with Group 935. June 4th, 1918, Origins. 115 awakens the undead knights from the Great War and quickly consumes the camp. Maxis is rendered catatonic by the element. Richthofen removes his brain before he turns. We knew that. Dempsey, Nikolai and Takio unite with Richthofen on the battlefield and help free Samantha from her imprisonment in Argotha. Primus has been reunited. Samantha sends Primus to their next destination. Maxis's brain arrives in Argotha and Dr. Monty decides to step in. Monty brings Maxis's brain into the house and wipes Maxis's corrupted mind of the Dark Ether from existence. Mob of the Dead, guys. Mob of the Dead. What are we on? 21 of 33. Sound. Guys, got a bloody text. How are you going? Let me see. 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 I'm going to read some comments. I haven't read comments in a while. Guys, we are slowly getting through this, but it's taken a hell of a long time. But I don't mind. I need to use the restroom, but I can't wait. Go ahead, dude. You could always watch the video about Yuri. You know what? I'm going to go get a drink. Drink water. Drink water. I'll literally be like 10 seconds. I'm going to have to duck. I'm wearing no underwear, guys. Stop there, chair. You broke. Back in a sec. Take a break. Take a kick out. Hello, what are you doing, Deidre? Deidre! And I'm back. Right. How you all doing? You all fine? God. Guys? Moving on to Mob. We're on page 21 of 33. It's going to be a hell of a long thing. Probs. Mob of the Dead, July 18th, 1922. You ready for this? I'm freaking ready for this map, man. My favourite one. It's not coming back in Chronicles. We're kind of peeved, right? Sal DeLuca. Oh, this is the whole story of Mob of the Dead, right. June 18th, 1922. Salvatore Sal DeLuca opens a gambling house across Chicago. This marks the beginning of the Sal DeLuca crime family. February 17th, 1923. Billy Handsome joins the DeLuca family as a hitman. Sal will come to look at Billy as the son he never had. September 18th, 1923. An expert in gambling and rigging sports events, Michael Finn O'Leary begins working for Sal. March 23rd, 1924. Finn marries Angelina Bow, an aspiring starlet with delusional grandeur. So we can actually end the speculation. A lot of people were saying that Finn married, what's the woman called in Shadows of Evil? I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now. But a lot of people are saying that he marries her. As we can see, that isn't the case. We kind of knew that anyway, I think. March the 1st, 1929. Sal writes of his frustration with Chicago's finest. After many years of successful bribes with the city, it becomes clear that is no longer an option. May 11th, 1930. Sal begins to work with Albert L. Arlington as an associate in Los Angeles, known for being a master schemer and bank robber. October 14th, 1930. Finn informs his lawyer he will not accept divorce of Angela, saying she can leave this marriage the day she leaves the earth. Oh, Finn, that's a bit harsh, right? October 11th, just let the woman go! October 11th, 1931. After an LA heist for Sal goes wrong, Al wakes up in hospital. October 28th, 1931. Whilst in hospital, Al submits Icarus from Mars, a publication as a comic strip. It is the third attempt and is denied again. Hang on. Icarus of Mars. I've heard that before. What is that? Let's have a look. Icarus of Mars. It's a comic strip that we see in Mob of the Dead. I know we get this image. Okay, so this was created by Sal. Alright. And it's denied again, because apparently it's not good enough. November 11th, 1931. Angry and frustrated with his collapsing empire, Sal kills a prostitute. Mate, that is not the way to go. No longer willing to turn a blind eye, Chicago PD arrests him. December 31st, 1931. In an operation against the DeLuca crime family, Billy is arrested for multiple homicides. December 19th, 1931. In an operation against the DeLuca crime family, Finn is arrested by the Chicago PD when his wife offers evidence against him. January 19th, 1932. Al is arrested for his role in the LA heist. May 14th, 1932. Sal is found guilty of murder. He is sentenced to life in prison at Alcatraz. May 16th, 1932. Billy is found guilty of 116, that's 1 off 115, counts of murder. He is sentenced to life in prison at Alcatraz. May 30th, 1932. Finn is found guilty of 16 counts of gambling fraud. He will serve his sentence at Alcatraz. June 13th, 1932. Sal and Billy arrive at Alcatraz Island. June 30th, 1932. Finn arrives at Alcatraz Island. June 31st, 1932. Al is found guilty of grand larceny, yeah? Grand theft auto, arson, conspiracy, and battery. He will serve a sentence at Alcatraz. August 3rd, 1932. Al arrives at Alcatraz Island. January 1st, 1933. Who the hell's showing? Stanley Ferguson begins working at Alcatraz Island. Okay, this is the start then. Hang on, guys. Right. Sorry guys, I've just got to speak to someone. Where were we? I forget where we were. Let me read some comments. So what you guys saying? Back from the edge, back from the dead. Everything in the storyline links up and makes sense, but it's so confusing with all these different Richthofens. There are so many. Oh, this is about the Mob of the Dead crew, yeah. Yellow, hi, how you doing, mate? Joel, how you doing? Push through the pain, I believe in you. Hello. How come Dempsey looks like PVT Polanski from the campaign in World War? I think it's the same skin. No more break. Where you go. If someone's donated, I'll have a look in a minute. I can't see my stream, so unfortunately. This sounds really interesting. It is interesting. Drink some water, man. I need water. I need water. Guys, one more break. Let me just get some water. Right. Okay, we're back. That's so much. That's so much. What are you guys saying? Mob of the Dead is killing you? Yeah. Lay off the dong. Hi, how you doing? Good? Get a tap on his room, yeah. Now, I wouldn't say that most of which are Samantha. I've got a hair here, what the hell? Glad our article has been put to good use, yeah. Thank you, dude. Okay, right. Right, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Shout out, please. Right. NevFops05, shout out to you. There you go. What you guys saying? You're back? I'm back. Right, I'm back. I'm back. We're gonna trip you through it, man. There's so much. It's so much information to do at once. This is like something you should do in like 5 videos. You know what I mean? And for anyone who's gonna watch this as a video after, I'll put the links in down to where I stopped, so you can just keep going. Avery, glad our article's been put to good use. Yeah, it's awesome, dude. Well done for doing this. Right. So we were at here. January 1st, 1933. Stanley Ferguson begins working at Alcatraz Island. April 1st, 1933. Al convinces Sal, Finn, and Billy that they can build a plane and escape Alcatraz. December 2nd, 1933. Realizing the plane will never be completed, and embittered with rage, Sal, Finn, and Billy plot to get revenge on Al. December 31st, 1933. Finn, Sal, and Billy lure Al to the roof and kill him. Was there supposed to be a date here? Mob of the Dead. I keep saying San. Sal, Finn, Billy, and Al battle waves of the undead as they find themselves trapped in a seamlessly endless loop. I know I'm saying some words wrong, but you gotta kind of excuse me for the amount of reading I'm trying to do at once. Yeah, so Sal, Finn, Billy, and Al battle waves of the undead as they find themselves trapped in a seemingly endless cycle. January 11th, 1934. Stepping through a rift, this is going to be interesting, Richthofen secures the blood samples of Sal and Finn. That explains how he got them. January 19th, 1934. Found guilty of Al's murder, Sal, Finn, and Billy are executed by electric chair. Richthofen on his body has the blood samples of Sal and Phil. I'm kind of calling him Phil. Sal and Phil. He got them by stepping through a rift into Alcatraz. So they were killed on 1934 for Al's murder. April 16th, 1940. Richthofen arrives in Dimension 63. We've mentioned that earlier. Where he contacted members of the Illuminati and enlists their help to build a laboratory facility beneath Alcatraz. We've never seen that. April 18th, 1940. Richthofen meets with Stanley Ferguson and convinces him to assist with the Illuminati's construction of the Alcatraz laboratory. What the hell? July 3rd, 1941. Stanley Ferguson reports that the laboratory has been completed and that the subjects will be placed in the stasis chambers upon arrival. What? Stanley Ferguson was in on all of this? We just thought he was a normal night guard. He met with Richthofen, and then him and Richthofen together, along with the Illuminati, constructed a laboratory under Alcatraz. What the hell? And the 4 subjects are then placed on stasis chambers under arrival. Who were the 4 subjects? Were the 4 subjects the Mob of the Dead crew? Or are they talking about a different crew? What? Does that explain how they're in purgatory then? They're in purgatory because they were placed on stasis. If we think about it, we go back to the Zombies comics. When the transit crew are placed on stasis, they are teleported to a different dimension, a dimension where life never existed, and, you know, basically they were teleported to a different dimension where life never existed. That's what happened to them whilst being placed on stasis. So if we think about it, if our Mob of the Dead crew are being placed on stasis, that would mean they get teleported to another dimension, and that dimension they get teleported to is an alternate satanic iteration of Alcatraz prison. Is that why they are there? Because they are put on stasis by Stanley Ferguson in a lab under Alcatraz. I don't know, maybe it'll say later on. July 4th, 1941. Richthofen returns to the lab. No. Alright, so Richthofen returns to the lab under Alcatraz where we meet Victus. Victus is the transit crew. Arriving from the empty Earth with the Canorium, upon reading the Canorium, this ties in with the comic. Richthofen discovers numerous timelines documenting their fate and learns about the blood vials. He would later write on the page, "I know what I must do, Edward Richthofen," and we can actually see that on the page down here. If we go down, "I know what I must do, Edward Richthofen, 4th of the 7th, 1941. We go back to this. Richthofen enters the rift to acquire the blood of Sal and Finn. After delivering the blood to his younger self and recovering the blood vials belonging to Victus, he returns. Victus is placed on ice to be kept safe until they are needed next. So, no, the subjects that they are talking about here are the transit crew. Victus. Yeah? Hang on, let me go down here. So we've got down here again the key. We've got Primus, Ultimus, which is the old crew. Victus, which is the Primus. Wait, no. Hang on, I'm getting confused here. Yeah, no, Victus is the buried crew, yeah. So Primus is the Origins crew, Ultimus is the old crew, Victus is the transit crew, and then we have Richthofen. So then we go back to this. Stanley Ferguson reports that the laboratory is being completed and the subjects, meaning the transit crew, will be placed in stasis chambers upon reveal. Is Zero Base the facility built under Alcatraz? That would make sense. In the comic, our characters travel to Zero Base, and when they are at Zero Base, they sit on these chairs and are put in stasis. So is Zero Base the name of the facility under Alcatraz? When they are put on stasis, Richthofen then travels to Alcatraz, where he sees the transit crew arriving from the empty earth with the Knorrian. We know that in the zombies comic, when they are put in stasis, they travel to this different dimension where life never existed, where there's a base that Maxis built to protect the Knorrian. As we know in the 4th issue of that comic, they pick up that Knorrian, they get it, and I'm assuming they bring it back to Richthofen, or they get it and they bring it back. And then when they do that, Richthofen collects it from them, from Alcatraz, and as we learn from this, they are left there. This is what happens to our transit crew. They are left on ice if they are ever needed again by Richthofen. So I'm assuming till this day, maybe they are still left under Alcatraz. July 4th, 1941. Primus arrives to collect the Victus blood samples from Richthofen. Following Primus's departure, Richthofen learns the location of the summoning key and travels to his next destination. What? This is so confusing. Richthofen arrives to collect the... Primus arrives to collect the Victus blood samples from Richthofen. Following Primus's departure... What the hell? October 1st, 1942. Stanley Ferguson leaves employment at Alcatraz. Everyone was saying that, a lot of people saying that Stanley was killed, he was stabbed with a knife. Didn't you see it in the intro? When I made my Mob of the Dead story off video, I said that no, that happens in purgatory, not in real life. In real life, he retires, he's living, he's fine. But in purgatory, he gets killed. But as we see, he retires from employment at Alcatraz. October 21st, 1943. Posing as Mr. Rapt, the Shadow Man hires the reporter to recover artifacts from the South Pacific and Russia. So it's now confirmed that Mr. Rapt was in fact the Shadow Man in disguise. December 14th, 1943. The reporter recovers the artifacts from the South Pacific and Russia. Among them is the summoning key. So the reporter is the one that gets the summoning key. December 25th, 1943. As per Mr. Rapp's request, the reporter speaks to Stanley Ferguson, a retired guard from Alcatraz. Stanley gives a detailed account of the deaths of Arlington, Bill, Finn, and Sal, December 31st, 1945. At Mr. Rapp's request, the reporter arrives in Morgue City to take in the sights, sounds, and smells. It stinks. December 15th, 1944, a meteor shower rains over Morgue City. December 30th, 1944, the reporter notes strange mould now growing all over the city. He also notes people are getting sick and acting delirious. February 13th, 1944. A fruit vendor tells the reporter about an ancient order of keepers and how they're the only ones holding back the force of the apocalypse. He talks about the people hearing chanting from beneath the city. March 30th, 1944. The reporter sends Mr. Rapt a telegram providing details and contact information for Nero, Jessica Rose, Floyd Campbell, and Jack Vincent. April 5th, 1944. Aware of the Shadow Man's actions, Monty writes to the reporter, warning him not to give the summoning key to anyone. So, wait, this letter that we find in Shadows of Evil was from Monty. Let's just get that up. Let's have a look. Yeah. So this letter that was on this person's hand here, with the initial M on it, was Monty. Some people were speculating that it was Maxis, but Monty wrote to... This is the reporter. Monty wrote to the reporter to not give the summoning key out to anyone, because Monty knew that he had it. Okay. April 10th, 1944. Jessica Rose learns a photographer is in possession of compromising pictures of her. April 20th, 1944. Pretending to be a company executive, the Shadow Man tells Nero's lawyer that Nero's wife has taken out substantial loans in his name. Nero has 15 days to settle before the company seeks reparation. Facing multiple debts due to his wife's spending habits, Nero decides to kill his wife and gets life insurance to pay off the debt. So the Shadow Man was the one that freaking balls Nero's life up. He pretended to be Nero's lawyer and told Nero that he lied to Nero and told him that his wife had taken out loans, and because of this, Nero became angry and killed his wife. The Shadow Man was the reason why Nero killed his wife. April 20th, 1944. Masquerading as an internal affairs officer, he's doing it again, he's pretending to be people. The Shadow Man tried to convince Jack Vincent's partner to admit that Jack plots to kill the snitch who could provide evidence against him. This guy's dodgy, man. He's a snake. April 20th, 1944. This guy's at it. He's crazy. The Shadow Man possesses a film director interested in hiring Jessica for a leading role. He tells her producer that He tells her producer that the part is hers. Afraid that the photographer could jeopardize her chance at stardom, she asks him to meet her so they can sort stuff out. As we know, she kills him with scissors. April 20th, 1944. What page are we on? 25 or 33. Posing as a journalist, the Shadow Man suggests Floyd Campbell is a journeyman fighter. To Floyd's promoter, wanting to guarantee his shot at the title, Floyd decides to wear brass knuckles under his gloves to fight with Tony King. So the Shadow Man again is basically winding all of these characters up. He winds up Floyd, kind of like leads him on, telling him that, you know, he won't win, he doesn't have a shot at winning the title, and so because of this, Floyd wears brass knuckles to fight his opponent, and we can guess he killed him. April 21st, 1944. Nero misses a call from his lawyer, informing him that the documents were forged and that actually there is nothing to worry about, but I'm guessing that at this time she was dead. April 21st, 1944. Jack misses a call from his partner. He has his back with internal affairs and nothing is to worry about. April 21st, 1944. Floyd misses a call from his promoter that the fight was a success and that he had a shot at the title. So actually, all of these characters got away with it, but they seem to miss the call from all of their producers and people who were in charge. I'm guessing this call was missed due to the Shadow Man. April 21st, 1944. Jessica misses a call from her producer. He says he didn't have a good feeling about the director and it didn't work out. However, he scored her a lead in a musical he and his partner are financing. This is interesting. April 21st, 1944. Jessica... Oh. So it's the same day that they received the calls and the same day that they commit the act. So they probably get the call like, let's say 12, and they're an hour later, because they missed the call, thinking that, you know, the bad thing is still happening. They end up going along with whatever plan they had in their head. So Jessica killed the photographer, Jack killed the snitch, Floyd Campbell killed Tony King, and Nero killed his wife. April 21st, 1944. Richthofen arrived in Morgue City to secure the summoning key. April 22nd, 1944. Richthofen learns that the reporter has the summoning key and confronts him. The reporter waves Monty's letter at Richthofen and orders him to stay away before attacking him. Richthofen kills the reporter in self-defense. I had an inkling, or we kind of knew that Richthofen killed the reporter, but it was kind of because of Dr. Monty. Dr. Monty in his letter told the reporter not to give the summoning key to anyone. And so when Richthofen went to retrieve the summoning key from Morgue City, because Monty told the reporter not to give it to him, and because Richthofen couldn't get it off him because the reporter wouldn't give it to him, Richthofen, in self-defense, killed the reporter. Mate, you're evil. I thought you were good. What's wrong here? As we see from the image, he stabbed a knife in him. April 25th, 1944, Shadows of Evil. Nero, Jack, Floyd and Jessica are knocked unconscious at the Blake Lake Burlesque Club. They wake up in a twisted version of Morgue City, slightly shifted from reality. Told that they can atone from their sins by the Shadow Man, all four are tricked into performing rituals. Jessica sacrifices her producer, Jake sacrifices his partner, Floyd sacrifices his promoter, and Nero sacrifices his lawyer. Completing the required rituals, the Apothecans are given access to Dimension 63. Realising that they've been duped, the four work with the Keepers to defeat the Shadow Man. They trap him in the summoning key before they hand it, but before they can hand it over to the Keepers, Primus Richthofen arrives and steals the key. Richthofen then travels to Dimension 2210 to secure innocent Richthofen's soul. He delivers a soul to the house from within the summoning key. The Shadow Man states, "I'll be seeing you." So as we know, when they they thought they killed the Shadow Man in Shadows of Evil, they thought they killed him. Obviously, that wasn't the case. He was trapped and sucked up inside of the summoning key. Then Richthofen came in, out of the portal, into Dimension 63 and took the summoning key out of the Keeper's hands. He says, "Sorry, I need this. I don't have time to explain, but this is basically the best for everyone." And then he left with the summoning key. He left. After he left Morgue City, he then travelled to another dimension called 2210 to use the summoning key to secure an innocent version of Richthofen's soul. Probably a child version of him, or maybe a nicer version of him, the Origins version of him. I don't know, but he sucked another Richthofen's soul into the summoning key and took it to the house. April 26, 1944, the Apothecans destroyed Dimension 13. Argotha. Okay, this one doesn't have dates. Oh, I think this just tells us what they all are. So the summoning key. Oh, it tells us, okay. The summoning key. The Keepers crafting the summoning key. They crafted it. It was a device that allows them to manipulate the ether, holding power over reality itself. They use it to create Argotha. The first transference device. The Keepers mastered the ability to travel between dimensions, the dark ether. Some Keepers begin to experiment with the dark ether, which corrupts and corrodes their souls. Among them is the Shadow Man. Was the Shadow Man once a Keeper, maybe? I don't know. I don't think so. The Ether Pyramid. The corrupted Keepers create the Ether Pyramid, a device capable of absolute power. A schism forms between them, and the Keepers are unattained by the dark ether. How much of this is there? Okay. So from now, it doesn't seem to have dates. Interesting, okay. So I thought that wasn't too important to the story, but apparently it is. There is no dates. Right. The Ether Pyramid. The corrupted Keepers create the Ether Pyramid, a device capable of absolute power. A schism forms between them and keeps the Keepers untainted by the dark ether. The War of Argotha begins. War breaks out between the corrupted and uncorrupted Keepers. The War of Argotha ends. Facing defeat, the corrupted Keepers hide the Ether Pyramid on the moon. So it was never there in the first place, they just hid it there. Within one of the newly discovered dimensions. After banishing the corrupted keepers to the dark ether beneath creation, the remaining keepers take on the mantle of guardians. Trapped in the dark ether, the corrupted keepers contort and evolve over eons, ultimately becoming the apothecants. They desire, above anyone else, to return to Agatha. The first arrival. With Dr. Monty's help, the Maxis drone arrives at the house in Agatha. Despite the absence of his soul, Monty recreates a physical manifestation of his Dimension 63 form. The arrival of Samantha. Monty brings Samantha to the house, reuniting her with the Dimension 63 incarnation of her father. So, okay. Samantha's corruption. Oh, guys, we've got hiccups. Let me check the live stream still going on. I don't even know if it's still going. Still going? I can't even see. Funny if I was doing this all myself. All this time. Hang on. Brandon Hill, there's your shout out. If you're in the video, can you repeat the story, please? No, let's stop this now. If you're enjoying the video, leave a like rating. So I'm going to ask. It's taking a hell of a long time. Right, so. Corrupted Samantha. Knowing that Samantha is corrupted by the Dark Ether, Monty takes her away from Maxis and the house. Samantha was corrupted? I suppose because she was trapped in the ether for so long, just like Maxis, when he was trapped in the ether so long he became evil. I suppose the same thing would happen to Samantha. And so he took her away from Maxis in the house. The isolation of Maxis. Alone in the house and missing his daughter, Maxis worries if Richthofen will ever have the courage to fulfill the vow he made all those years ago. The rediscovery of the empty earth. Having observed Monty for some time, Maxis uses the teleporter in his basement of the house to study and explore other dimensions. Among them is the empty earth, where an alternate Maxis has constructed Zero Base. A facility that houses artifacts and replicas collected from a multitude of different timelines. However, his attempts to manipulate the empty earth creates a relative to... Oh my god. So Maxis created Zero Base. We're learning things as we go along here. Remember, I haven't read this yet. So, having observed Monty for some time, Maxis uses the teleporter in the basement of the house to study and explore other dimensions. So whilst he's in the house on his own, he just travels to other dimensions because I guess he has nothing else to do. He travels to a place called Empty Earth, a different dimension, where an alternate Maxis, an alternate version of him, created Zero Base. So I guess that's not the base under Mob of the Dead. Zero Base is a facility that houses artifacts and replicas collected from a multitude of different timelines. However, his attempts to manipulate the empty earth creates a reality too fragile to be sustained. What the hell? Man, there's still so much to do even after reading all of this. The restoration of innocence. Monty returns Samantha to Maxis, her innocence restored. So somehow he cleans her up. As we hear in the radios, the man comes knocking at the door of the house. This man is Dr. Monty. He takes Maxis' daughter Samantha away from him. He does something to her, we don't know what. But whenever he returns her to the house, she is innocent. She isn't corrupted by the Dark Ether. Monty's plan. Monty explains to Maxis that the paradox wrought by a multiverse must be resolved. A new reality can be created, one free of apothecants, but only if they enlist the aid of souls who have lived through and survived the fracturing. So this is the beginning of Monty's new universe. The Chronorium secured. Among the artifacts that Maxis collected in Zero Base is an ancient book known as the Chronorium. A complete chronicle of the entire history and future of all reality. Protected by various countermeasures, the facility can only be accessed by those possessing a soul. So that's why the transit crew have gone there. Richthofen's journey begins. Maxis tells Richthofen the plan to secure the Canorium and locate the summoning key. Hearing the echoes of his other selves, Richthofen discovers his connection with Samuel Stuhlinger and decides to use Victus to acquire the Canorium. The manipulation of Stuhlinger. Having overseen the construction of the laboratory beneath Alcatraz, Richthofen returns to the house where he begins to communicate with Stuhlinger. Together, they persuade Victus, or the transit crew, to travel to a variety of different locations in order to recover the Canorium. As you can tell on my face, guys, I'm shocked. The Canorium retrieved. Right, upon arriving at Zero Base, Victus provides blood samples that allow them to access the empty earth and recover the Canorium. We've seen that in the comics, the blood acquired. Richthofen collects the Victus blood samples from Undead Richthofen. My question is, how did Undead Richthofen get the blood samples? The arrival of Edward. Richthofen collects Eddie's innocent soul from Dimension 63, and Monty gives him a physical form in the house. Samantha meets Edward. Eddie and Samantha meet each other for the first time. Samantha writes in her diary that Edward doesn't like to share toys, the happiness of the children. Monty brings Eddie and Samantha more toys. Interesting. Okay. The fragility of memory. I'm losing my mind. I'm reading so much, I'm losing it. I hope it's worth it though. Maxis notes that the teleportation and travel between dimensions could have a profound impact in the mind. He fears that the confusion caused by the collision of memories past, present, and future could lead to the collapse of reality itself. The arrival of the souls. The souls arrive. Maxis tells Samantha and Eddie to put the toys away and make sure the windows are locked before they come down to the basement. We saw that in the Origins cutscene. The children reborn. As each soul arrives, Monty transforms them into their younger selves and returns their innocence. The arrival of Primus. Now soulless, Primus brings the summoning key to the house, where Maxis unwittingly releases the Shadow Man. Please explain the Revelations ending. So Maxis releases the soul of the Shadow Man, as we see in the Revelations intro, who in return frees the Apothecans from the Dark Ether, unaware that they would be wiped from existence once they have served their purpose. Primus battles alongside Monty in his final battle against the Shadow Man. Revelations. With the Shadow Man and the Apothecans vanished, Monty discovers the Primus has consumed the blood of the souls from the dimensions that no longer exist. The paradox must be resumed. So this is the ending intro, or the ending cutscene, where the Primus characters have drank the blood. Is it going to end it there? You better explain more on Rev. No way. No. We've got 2 more pages. No, 3. Fractures. April 12th, 1942. Overrun by the undead, the Rising Sun facility is lost. July 8th, 1942. Division 9 begins construction of the island facility. November 5th, 1942. Takeo is dispatched by the Emperor to oversee the work of Division 9 at the island facility. November 11th, 1942. Groff confirms that Division 9 has completed the resurrection of the ancient beasts for the battle on the Eastern Front. We see that in a cipher. Reports suggest that the specimens are still extremely dangerous, but the German stalemate on the Eastern Front with the Russians will soon come to an end in their involvement. February 2nd, 1943. The Battle of Stalingrad doesn't end. Thanks to technological advancements on both sides, one side has the robots, which are the Germans, and the other, the giant robots that we see in Origins, and the other side has the dragons, which are the, I guess, the Russians. Or the Japanese. Russians? Yeah. February 6th, 1943. Division 9 expands... Sorry, guys. Division 9 expands experimentations to include use of prisoners of war. Division 9 staff... Kids, is that how you pronounce that? And mystical beasts. February 13th, 1943. Working with Maxis at the Kino facility, Sophia reveals she was attacked by Subject 26. February 14th, 1943. Having learned that Sophia was attacked by Subject 26, which is a zombie, Maxis kills her and transfers her brain into a machine. The Strategic Operations Planning Heuristic Intelligence Analyzer, otherwise known as Sophia. June 15th, 1943. Takeo reports to the Emperor the work being done at the island facility is unacceptable. July 7th, 1943. Sophia is transferred to Stalingrad to oversee Group 935's operations. November 16th, 1943. Sophia confirms the existence of Project Rasputin, the Russian Mangala soldiers. January 11th, 1944. Sophia confirms the Russian Gigant robots has set back the German advances. What the hell? January 3rd, 1945. The Russians use stolen Group 935 research to create the Russian Gigant, the Russian Mangler, and the ray gun Mark III. Okay. So that explains the story of the Mark III. It's basically a weapon created by the Russians that was stole from Group 935. April 4th, 1945. Sophia declares the Battle of Stalingrad is near victory for German forces and that the Valkyrie drones have been deployed to locate any resistant strains and attempt to capture. After the release of large concentrations of Element 115 by German forces, the city becomes largely populated by the undead. Nikolai and his comrades continue to fight for what remains of Stalingrad. As we know, he loves the city, so obviously he's going to do that. July 24th, 1945. On the orders of the Emperor, Takeo is taken prisoner by Division 9. Obviously, we know the Emperor betrayed Takeo. He is used as a test subject for their organic plant-based experiments. September 2nd, 1945. World War II still rages on. Stalingrad has turned into a three-way conflict between Dragon, Machine, and the Undead. Without any remaining human survivors, Sophia is now trapped in the city. September 2nd, 1945. Harvey Yena reports the Dragons have been proven beneficial to the war effort at Stalingrad. He confirms that Diglot research continues to explore time displacement and movement across dimensions. September 13th, 1945. Cornelius attempts to send a transmission to Peter McCain, telling him to rendezvous. I tried to pronounce that earlier. I guess that just rendezvous at the abandoned Rising Sun facility. So meet him there. Right, 2 more pages. October 13th, 1945, The Giant. As the zombie outbreak occurs, Primus Dempsey, Takeo, and Nikolai confront the older version of Richthofen, moments after he teleported Maxis and Samantha. As they try to reason with him to wake their counterparts, Primus Richthofen arrives through the teleporter and kills his ultimate self, triggering fractures across space and time. As Primus fights the undead, Group 935 secure the Dempsey test subject and transport him to Der Eisendrache. Primus pursues them in a German giant. We see that in the Der Eisendrache intro. October 9th, 1945. With construction complete, Division 9 continue their progress at the island facility. October 18th, 1945, Zetsubo-no-shima. Primus secure Takeo's soul after they help him commit seppuku. If you don't know, that's just a way of killing yourself. Richthofen takes the crew to Dimension 63 to collect their blood. We see that at the end of Zetsubou no Shima. They collect their blood for an insurance policy. They return to the island before travelling to their next destination. October 18th, 1945. Peter McCain makes his jump into Shinonuma as a temporal rift opens between him as a result of the premise universe fractures. The rift teleports him to Gorod Kurovi. So because of our Origins crew teleporting from place to place, this is fracturing the universe. And so this time when Peter McCain goes to jump out of the plane into Shinonuma, instead of parachuting down normally and hanging himself or getting trapped, he actually jumps into this teleporter, this rift that teleports him over to Gorod Kurovi. Hence why we see him falling from the sky in Gorod. October 29th, 1945. Dr. Groff takes control of Group 935 in Richthofen's absence, not realising his fate at the hands of Primus. October 31st, 1945. In the wake of haunted dreams and rumours that Samantha may be roaming Griffin Station, Groff worries the MPD may be corrupting the facility. November 5th, 1945. Der Eisendrache. Recovering the Dempsey test subject from a rocket bound for Moon, Richthofen secures his soul and reveals to Primus his intention to set things right. Primus destroys Griffin Station and the Moon, so not only do they blow up the Moon, that they also blow up Griffin Station. Actually, in one of the radios, we can hear Groff saying to Richthofen, what are you doing? Because Richthofen, obviously, as we see, sends the rockets from Der Eisendrache to destroy the Moon. November 6th, 1945. Drifting through space and time in a surreal form, Gersh arrives in the Fracture. Richthofen teleports the souls of Dempsey, Takeo and Nikolai to Maxis at the house. Monty announces his existence to Primus for the first time. April 25th, 1953, while travelling to Shangri-La, Brock and Gary's plane crashed in the mountains as a result of a freak astroperic event. Another side effect of the temporal rifts created by Primus. While travelling to Gorod Kurovi, oh my god. November 6, 1963, hiding in a closet at the Pentagon, Robert Nitmanara records a message confirming that JFK, Nixon and Castro have died as a result of the zombie outbreak, and he dies moments later. And that is all of this. That, what I've just read, is all of this. You can't see it much here. Yeah, freaking look at all this information. There's a lot. This is the whole zombie storyline on one sheet. If I was to read it off this, guys, we'll be here for 10 hours, but thank you to the creators, the guys who actually did this transcript, all here. Definitely go and check them out. I will link it down in the description. They've actually done all of this. They've written the whole thing out, and that is the entire zombie storyline. Everything from start to finish, and it's crazy. There's, out of this, even though this is the whole zombie storyline, there's so many videos to make, so many things to actually match up together, because things in this timeline are still separated out. Like, you know, one thing it'll talk about the Primus characters, and then, you know, 10 paragraphs later it'll mention them again, and you can actually kind of align some things together. So there's still definitely videos you could do on this to help you out even more. That is it. It's super interesting. I'm an hour late, but I don't care, because I absolutely love this. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Hang on. Let me just get the live stream up so I can see your guys' comments. If you haven't already left a like rating, I would deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate it. I thank you guys a lot for watching. So does Zetsubou no Shima take place before Der Eisendrache? Am I back? Lol, Revelations. Just get on with it. Dude, I've been talking for... Hang on, I don't even know how long now. 2.5 hours. You've got to excuse me if I paused a couple of times, but there we go. That is it, guys. I'm going to end it here. There'll be more videos to come, but I just wanted to do a whole read-through of all of this because it was worth it. If you, I mean, you guys can go read it for yourself, but there we go. I know it may have got boring at times, But look, this is freaking difficult to read. If you've enjoyed, leave a like rating. If you want to read it for yourself, I will link it down in the description. That is the whole zombie storyline from start to finish. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.